PayPal is planning something for you, and it doesn't look good. Welcome to the Rob Lett Show. I'm your host, Rob Lett. Before we get started, I'd like you to go ahead and do a few things. First, like this video, subscribe to it. If you're on YouTube, to the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a bell. That bell is for notifications. It notifies you the next time we release another video. If you're on Rumble, to the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a share button. Click it to share this video with a friend. Go ahead and do all those that apply right now. We call these segments Soapbox News. They're current events that I felt compelled to get on my soapbox about, and it's also your chance to get on your soapbox in our comments section. Is PayPal about to target conservatives? That's the focus of today's Soapbox News. I was looking through some current events articles the other day, and I ran across this particular article that showed PayPal and the ADL are doing a collaboration. And the first thing that crossed my mind was the F word, fascism. You might be asking why. The Anti-Defamation League is an organization that supposedly looks out for Jewish interests. They have absolutely nothing to do with government, right? Right? Well, I'm not so sure. The organization may have started out protecting Jewish interests, but over time it's morphed into this anti-hate organization. And there's no problem with that, but the only problem is, what are they defining as hate? Not long ago, the ADL moved to get Tucker Carlson fired from Fox News. They accused him of hate speech for something that he said during one of his monologues. However, the same ADL came out to embrace Al Sharpton. You know Al Sharpton, the guy who pals around with Louis Farrakhan? I thought they labeled Louis Farrakhan an anti-Semite once. Not only is the ADL embracing him, but they seem to have erased all of Al's past indiscretions for some reason. Some in the Jewish community aren't too sure how to take the ADL. Some of you may recall PewDiePie. He was at one time the most successful YouTuber on the planet. The ADL once labeled PewDiePie an extremist. He uploaded a video showing some stupid things that people would do for money. You can look it up on your own. And the ADL came after him. I'm bringing up the PewDiePie incident for two reasons. One, PewDiePie started to donate $50,000 to the ADL, but he later canceled it because he felt like he was being extorted. And the more he looked into the organization, he felt like the organization wasn't everything they were purported to be. Two, the second reason I'm mentioning the PewDiePie incident is because PewDiePie said he felt like donating $50,000 to the ADL would stop the accusations of him being a member of the alt-right. Now we're getting somewhere. First, the ADL as a credible organization is in question, not by me, but by some members of the Jewish community themselves. And two, between the Tucker Carlson incident and the PewDiePie incident, both accusations had something to do with so-called right-wing extremism. But Al Sharpton, for some reason, was absolved from this. You may think I'm reaching when I say it appears the ADL may be looking for a way to target conservatives and using PayPal to do it. But I put together just a brief recap of some of the narrative that we've seen from the left in recent years. See if you don't see a recurring theme of painting conservatives as either terrorists, extremists, or both. In fact, when I was doing research on the ADL for this segment, this link came up. In America, when the subject of hate comes up, the left has done an incredible job of associating hate with the right. I decided to click on this link, and here's what came up. The very first sentence addresses the KKK. Now, I don't know how well you know your history, but isn't it interesting that the link was supposed to feature so-called right-wing extremism, but it starts off talking about the KKK, who was the military arm of the Democrat Party. Make a mental note here. It won't be the first time you see the media accusing the right of something actually done by the left. You don't have to take my word for it. In these next few takes, I want you to pay attention to the accusations and the actions of the left. Here's what happened the day that Donald Trump was inaugurated.
Burning cars and smashed windows. A small group of protesters dressed in black, their faces covered, armed with hammers and bricks. Facing off with thousands of officers on site, many in riot gear, confronting them with flashbang grenades and pepper spray.
Resist from day one!
Similar demonstrations across the country. Arrest outside Trump Tower, New York City. A human chain across San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge. From Phoenix to Houston to Chicago, people protesting the country's new president on his first day in office.
Keep in mind, these were not conservatives rioting in the streets. Conservatives were celebrating Trump's victory. These riots were the actions of the left. And after all of this, what does Don Lemon from CNN have to say?
So we have to stop demonizing people and realize the biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right. And we have to start doing something about them. There is no travel ban on them. There is no ban on, they had the Muslim ban. There is no white guy ban. So what do we do about that?
I know what you're going to say, but Rob, that's just Don Lemon speaking out of frustration. Surely this is not a widely held belief by the left, is it?
2/3 of all white guys voted for Trump. That means anytime you see 3 white guys walking at you down the street toward you, 2 of them voted for Trump. You need to move over to the other sidewalk because these are not good people that are walking towards you. You should be afraid of them.
Let the media tell it. You should be terrified of conservatives. Just before the 2020 elections, businesses were barricading their doors in preparation for Election Day violence.
There's growing concern tomorrow's outcome will spur violence on the streets of Washington, D.C., with shop fronts boarding windows in preparation. Shop owners say they're not taking any risks after months of protests and looting earlier in the year. Peter Stefanovic spoke with voters in the Capitol.
Well, this is a site that we are seeing right around Washington, D.C. So about a block or two in that direction is the White House, and businesses and buildings all around this area for blocks and blocks and blocks. Businesses with windows and glass doors are being boarded up, kind of like this, with these huge planks of wood. The fear is, or perhaps the expectation is, that there will be a repeat of the violence that D.C. and other cities saw a few months ago, when protesters came out and started breaking into windows and looting and grabbing whatever they can. And the concern is that there could be an outbreak of violence post-November 3, after the polls close, if results don't go the way that people are expecting.
If you were smart, you already knew that the violence was not coming from conservatives. Heck, we spent the better half of 2020 watching the left tearing down statues, setting fires, shootings, taking over police departments, and more. But the public braced themselves for the upcoming violence from conservatives on Election Day, and guess what happened? Nothing. Isn't that interesting? All that fear-mongering and anticipation of violence for an incident that never occurred. What happened? I'll tell you what happened. Joe Biden was announced the winner. That's what happened. I want you to pay very, very, very close attention here. The right lost the election. I know. Just roll with it. I'm making a point, okay? The right lost the election, and there was peace. Look at the Democrats. There's champagne in the streets, for crying out loud.
For all the worries about this taking time, Americans have made their choice. Joe Biden will be the next president of the United States.
It's one of the great days in American history.
These fellas stink! Stink!
I am happy because Biden-Harris won, and enough of the division under Trump.
But the real lesson here, if you were paying attention, is this is what happens when the left gets their way, and here's what happens when they don't. But I know, somewhere there's a Democrat watching this saying, oh, come on, Rob, so you're really going to ignore January 6th? Of course not. That wouldn't be fair. And honestly, I don't know a single conservative who thought that was cool. But it certainly was not planned. And this isn't just my opinion. The FBI just released their own findings saying, yes, the incident did happen, but there is no evidence showing it to be organized. In other words, a major yet isolated incident. Now remember, we witnessed riots from the left for the better part of 2020. But after the January 6th incident, here's what AOC tweeted and then later deleted. Now notice, she wasn't asking about people who engaged in the January 6th incident. She's asking if anyone has gathered any evidence on people who supported Trump. For what possible purpose would you need a list of people who supported Trump? To do what with exactly? Conservatives have long been loosely targeted by social media. And the response from the left has been, well, if you don't like it, then start your own platform. Well, someone did. And just days after the January 6th incident, Amazon, Apple, and Google took an unprecedented move to actually ban Parler from the internet. Now, I'm not saying that PayPal is 100% absolutely positively doing this, engaging in unfair practices against conservatives. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is the collaboration with the ADL doesn't look good. One of the fastest growing segments online is the segment of conservative influencers like myself. There are many conservatives in the YouTube community who feel like YouTube has demonetized their videos, suppressed their videos in the search engines, even removed some of their subscribers. As a result, some conservatives have had to rely on donations from PayPal and Patreon because they don't have ads running on their videos like many other people who have large followings. I suspect we'll see more conservative voices be affected by this collaboration between PayPal and the ADL as we start to see more conservatives get labeled as extremists. This is fascism. If you missed my podcast on the true history of fascism, see my podcast called Exposing the Lie of Left and Right Politics. I may put a link to it up here somewhere where you can click on it and it'll take you directly to that video. And that's where I'll leave it for now. If you're new around here, our channel is a combination of long-form podcasts for an understanding of conservative principles and soapbox news, topics where you get to get on your soapbox about the latest news of the day. Be sure you like, subscribe, and share with someone who should have been here with us today. We'll see you next time.